Bruins Beat is brought to you by Prizepicks.
And welcome into the Bruins Beat presented by Prizepicks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play just $5. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That's Carl Corazzini. Carl, what is up?
Oh, not much is up. It's the end of the school year, which is really nice. It's a beautiful day out, and what would I rather be doing than hanging out with you inside?
Inside.
Inside.
It's
Yeah.
better than anything. It's a great way to celebrate the end of school, and it's nice out. You're right, yeah. And somehow it'll be rainy this weekend, as it always seems to be here in the great state of Massachusetts. So I'm excited for that. Yeah, school. Are you done? Is St. Mark's graduated?
Graduated last Saturday. You had some faculty meetings, a faculty outing yesterday, and today's truly the first day off from the school year.
And you're spending it with me.
Well, you sent me the message. You said, "Hey, do you want to do a podcast today?" And I was like, "Absolutely." I would love to talk some hockey on June 13th. So why not?
Why not? Exactly. So we'll dive into it. This is a fun episode because I think I want to get your opinions on things. I think there's a lot of hypotheticals to discuss, which I know you love.
I love hypotheticals.
So we can definitely dive deep into some of these. But we'll start with a non-hypothetical, which is Marco Sturm, new head coach of the Bruins. What'd you think of that? What'd you think of that hire?
I think where you're at currently, the strength of your team is Jeremy Swayman and then your defensive core. You have a coach that has a defensive system, right? That has openly spoke about Claude Julien's system as well. I think you need to reset the foundation as a defensive team. I do not think that fans are necessarily going to enjoy trying to win 2-1, 3-2 games. But if you have any chance of making the playoffs next year, it's from goal on out. And you rely on Swayman, McAvoy, Hampus Lindholm, right? Like to a degree, Mason Marchment, right, as his game continues to progress. But it's probably the right fit for who you are as a team. I think what fans probably are certainly frustrated with is that you weren't the team at the top of those top coaches lists, right? Like what's transpired over the course of the last two coaches is you've gotten rid of them for whatever reason, and they've gone on and won without you. And I think everyone else around the league looks at that. They look at your current roster, they look at your prospect pool, and decided not to engage in being part of an original six team. And I think that's the frustrating part. Like, not that Marco Sturm's not a name in hockey that people don't know. Like, certainly people know who he is around here, but his coaching resume probably doesn't fit with who the Boston Bruins are.
Yeah, I mean, but I also think was this roster really one that are they at a point where they would want that sort of retread head coach? Like, I know Woodcroft was sort of in the middle. Like, I don't consider Jay Woodcroft, and I've said this before, I don't consider him like a retread. He's only been in one place. It was for basically 2.5 years. He sort of fits in the Bruce Cassidy mold of Cassidy was head coach in Washington for a year and a half, 2 years. I didn't consider him sort of like a recycled coach. But I don't know if the Bruins are in a position where they would want a guy who's sort of been recycled. Like, I always mention Laviolette or Tortorella. And I also don't know why I don't think they'd want to come here with this roster. Like, you're right about the head coaching here. They've gone through guys and they've all gone on to success. But I also don't would they want to have this roster right now? Would you want to kind of enter into this weird limbo situation that the Bruins seem to be in? I don't think so.
No, I don't think you want to, but I think the fan base, right? The tradition of the Bruins, the fan base, the excitement around the city for the Boston Bruins, as a coach, you want to be in a situation where people care about the sport and the opportunity to rebuild it. But you're right? Like, the roster is not designed for Peter Laviolette or Mike Sullivan to come in and take them over the top. Like, they've got a long way to go. It's a 2 to 3 year process probably before they're going to be a Stanley Cup contender again. So yeah, you're not going to get that big name to come in and take over the Boston Bruins. And that's why I do think that Marco Sturm is the right fit. Someone that can create an identity defensively, build that foundation. And I don't know that he's the coach that's going to take him over the top. Time will tell with what his program looks like and what does your prospect pool look like coming in the next 3 years. Because what do you have 5 first-round picks in the next 3 drafts?
That's right. That's right. And that's the thing. And so like you and I have talked about it a little bit off the air. And I think a lot of people are kind of asking this question, and it's right to ask, is like, and you just alluded to it, is he the guy that can take them to the cup 4 years from now? And the answer is, I don't know. And that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's not a great thing, but we just don't really know. And I think it's in large part because, first of all, the Bruins go through coaches quick. I mean, they had Bruce Cassidy, who is one of the best coaches in the NHL, 5 years gone. Jim Montgomery, we criticized him here, but is a good NHL head coach. He goes to St. Louis, wills them to the playoffs. Like, he was here, 2 years, was it? Like 2 years and a couple months. So
yeah, 2.5 years.
I wonder with Sturm, I wonder what their leash is post this period where like, it seems like they are more towards rebuild, retool than contention, obviously. So, I mean, I think his big thing, as you said, return to a defensive identity. That's going to be number one. Helping to develop these prospects and getting young guys in the lineup. That's number two. But when does that patience wear out? Because again, you have David Pastrnak in his prime on this team. You have Charlie McAvoy entering his prime. You have Jeremy Swayman entering his prime. You have guys like Hampus and Elias Lindholm. I don't know how long this is going to go on for. Like, you're going to have to win at some point. And Marco Sturm may be the guy that gets them to win. And Marco Sturm gets them into the playoffs, and they're in it every year. And he grows with this roster. And that's what you want. I think that's the perfect thing. You look at the best head coaches in the NHL, they've grown with their rosters. But I also wouldn't be shocked if they went the other direction where, like, they get to 3-4 years out from now and it's like, all right, now we need a proven, like a Peter DeBoer type coach to come in and get this team kind of that next level. So, but we don't know at this point.
Well, I do think one thing to consider is that Don Sweeney has a 2-year extension. So it becomes what is his patience? Does he need to win now? Right? Like, is that a scenario that plays into it in the sense that you've got those 5 first-round picks in the next 3 years? He's got the 2-year extension. What does he do? Right? Like, I think he alluded to it at his press conference last week or the last time he was speaking, that right, with a lot of those draft picks, they were in a win now scenario. And so where he has this extension, is there some security there, or does he feel the need that they need to win an original 6 team in a city where, right, like, knowledgeable hockey fans, but want to win too, right? Like, they want to develop and contend at the same time. So, with those extra picks, do you try to go out and get some established players that make you more of a solidified playoff hockey team? So that'll be the one thing. Like, does Marco Sturm make it through that 2-year extension? That'd be the one thing that I'd be interested in. Like, as they start to get established players, if that's how they so choose, with those extra draft picks, or do they draft those 5 first-rounders? And then I think Marco Sturm probably gets a little bit longer of a leash.
100%. And I think you're on the nose with, like, if you start trading those first, which we'll get into in a second, like, you're going to be expected to win. And if you're not winning immediately, Sweeney is on it because I think Sweeney has this coming season and then 2 years after, I believe. So you basically have 3 years coming up here, starting this coming season. Does the clock start ticking? And you say, all right, we need to bring in an established guy that knows how to win. And we're getting very ahead of ourselves, obviously, but I think it's valid to ask it. I like the Sturm hire, by the way. I'm not like trying to pour cold water all over it.
No, I'm not either.
Questions we need to be asking.
Well, I just think, as a hockey fan, not like a lifelong Boston Bruin fan,
former player,
always have loved the way they played. It's the anticipation of trying to win 2-1 in order for them to make the playoffs next year. Like, if that's a real possibility, they're going to have to play an extremely structured defensive style, right? Like win those games 2-0. I'm not going to enjoy that, right? Like if they're in the playoffs, I'll enjoy it. Sure. Like you've done your job, but yeah, the open run and gun style win 4-3 is fun to watch at 7:00 at night. When you sit down on the couch, I do enjoy that. Yeah.
It is. It is. I'll be getting the text. I'll be getting the text next year at 9:00 in November on a Wednesday night, or a Thursday night, being like, "This is boring. This is boring."
So I do
valid.
think. I think Marco Sturm. I think he's secure for 2 years, right? Like just what you said.
Yeah.
Don Sweeney, the year and then the 2-year extension. What does it look like? Where is that roster at the end, at the beginning of that third year? Are there a team that can truly contend? Has he shown that his team is willing to play the style that he needs them to play? I think that year 3 will be when decisions are made.
You obviously historically on the live post game shows, which we need to get back to, the Bruins need to get back to the playoffs so we can do those. But you are expert in structure and things like that. And Sturm obviously is a well, you're an expert in this terms. But Sturm was notorious for being, there with Todd McClellan in LA. They ran the 1-3-1. They sort of mirrored that in Ontario, and obviously then under Hiller, they switched sort of a 1-2-2 in the neutral zone. Is there any structurally things you'd like to see the Bruins do that they haven't been doing? It's okay if there isn't.
Yeah, I don't know, right? Like I'm not going to sit here and tell you when I'm watching the game on the couch that I'm too in tune with structure. We did watch it during the playoffs with Florida a few years ago, right? Like, and you watch Florida now, like they just suffocate you in the defensive end. Like they are consistently pressuring the puck, right? Like making contact, and that second forward is right there. And I think that's probably, and here's the thing for fans across the board, structure doesn't change all that much between teams, right? Like there's one of 3 systems that you generally run on a forecheck. Yeah, the 1-3-1 in the neutral zone is a little bit different, right? Like that was Guy Boucher with Tampa in what was that, 2011, right? Like the famous clip is what they were playing Philadelphia, and Peter Laviolette wouldn't move the puck behind the net, right? Like that. If that's what you are going to anticipate with the Bruins this coming year, you're in for a long 60 minutes.
You're in for a lot. As a fan, as a player, it's
right.
It
so
be long. I agree.
If you're asking me, what would I? Right, like it's so different. Like you come from the prep world, and the idea here is you want to put as much pressure on 14 to 18-year-old kids to make as many decisions under pressure, right? Like you can't do that at the National Hockey League level because everyone supports the puck in 5 and 10 foot increments. They move the puck so quick. So yeah, would it be great if I said, hey, let's play this super aggressive 2-1-2, which is just 2 forwards going after the defenseman, and hey, D-man, you're going to pinch down on absolutely everything. You don't have the roster, you don't have the speed to be able to play that way right now. So you are going to have to play that structured 1-3-1. What you're going to look to try to do is squeeze the puck at the red line, and then it's, can I live in transition? So I've shortened the game, right? And by that, like, instead of playing 200 feet, like I've now just made the game 100 feet. And now can my offensive players make plays in that 100 feet from the red line? Yeah, you're better off in that area than asking the team to defend for whatever it might be, right? Like 38 minutes of a 60-minute game. You're not going to be able to survive that way if you try to be overly aggressive.
Yeah.
So,
and you hit on it with the speed part. Like you need speed.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Like what I, as a fan, as a prep coach, I you want to see speed, you want to be aggressive, but the current state of the Bruins roster, you're going to have to be more structured and just tighten up a little bit.
And a little bit more boring. Like, I think
Yeah,
fans will
no,
be anticipating that. Like, it'll be
and
a more boring style.
You can win boring, right? Like, I still will not watch the New Jersey Devils, right? Like, the New Jersey Devils are on TV, and right, like they have the Jack Hugheses and Luke Hugheses of the world, like Nico Hischier, like they're entertaining. Can't do it.
Yeah.
I still can't watch them based on what was it, 94, 95, where it was we are going to beat you 1-0, 2-1. We're going to clog up the neutral zone. And so I do think that's I think that's what you're in store for next year, and that's the right decision. Win 2-1, like winning 2-1, 1-0 is better than losing 5-4.
I was also going to say, like, you think about last year, the Bruins would kind of go down 2 goals and then it would unravel and they'd lose 7-2, and they had all these lopsided games. And I think when you play a more structured defense focused game plan, like that happens less. And obviously you had injuries last year, so you didn't have Hampus Lindholm for most of the year. You didn't have Charlie McAvoy for a big part of it. But still, like, I think having that structure and reverting back to what they were kind of pre-Jim Montgomery for this roster fits them the best, because they are built from the back out. Like, you have, whether people like it or not, one of the better goalies in the NHL. At least you're paying him that way. You have a pretty good D-core when healthy, so you just lean into that. And I think that's what they have to do. By the way, you mentioned the Devils back in like the 90s, early 2000s. I remember as a kid watching like the Scott Stevens hits from back in the day. Those would all be penalties now. It would all be penalties. It is like, viewing it from today's lens, it's like, that is the dirtiest hit I've ever seen. Like, Paul Kariya passes it, and then like 5 seconds later, he just gets freaking walloped. And nowadays, be like, all right, that's like a 5-game suspension. And there, it's like, nope, keep playing. Like, like this is a highlight.
So for me growing up, I don't know if I've ever said this before on the show, but I only had 2 posters as a kid. Ken Griffey Jr. That's why everyone in our era wore their hat backwards, and then it was Paul Kariya. And so that is one of my favorite memories from watching a Stanley Cup final. Scott Stevens hits him, and then you see him walk out onto the bench, and then next shift, right, like blows it by Martin Brodeur glove side, and right, what was it, Gary Thorne, like off the floor and on the board.
Yeah, iconic.
It was, I mean, I still watch it. Like, if I'm sitting around, after I've done my lesson plans for history, I will periodically watch, right? Like, he's clearly unconscious and he blows the like air right into his mask. Like, love it. Paul Kariya, love it. Like, I think I've shared this, but a 4th liner in Chicago when I get called up, clearly, and we're playing Nashville, and they had Forsberg and Kariya that played together, and I can't remember their third member, but like, we go out, it is a neutral zone face-off, and right, Trotz obviously is going to send out their line to play against us, and I get to line up next to him, and just I got to tell Paul Kariya he was my favorite player growing up, which was pretty cool.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
He was just like, thank you very much. Yeah, like University of Maine, I was just getting into college hockey. And he was obviously dominating with Jim Montgomery, the Ferraro twins, Sean Walsh as a coach, and they put out a documentary called Out of the Woods, and I was just mesmerized by Paul Kariya.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. I didn't know Paul Kariya was your favorite player growing up. That makes sense. Like, winger.
It was like, it was, a myriad of different players. It was Cam Neely as a Bruin, right? Like, clearly, if you grew up in our area, you loved him. Like, you wanted to be able to score 50 goals and, hit people and fight people the way he did. And then it was Steve Yzerman and Paul Kariya. But Paul Kariya was the only one that I had a poster for that was on my wall. I met Steve Yzerman. Well, I met all 3 of them, but I met Steve Yzerman as well. And Christine and I have always said, like, oh, if you meet a celebrity, would would you be an on? I'm like, no way. Like, and Steve Eisman was the general manager of the Grand Rapids Griffins, and he was always around. And like the first time he was ever around, he was standing in our athletic trainers room, and I walked from the gym into the athletic training room, and we came face to face. And he said, like, "Hey, Carl, how you doing?" And all I could get out was, like, nothing came out.
It was just nothing. That's great.
And
I love that.
it must happen to him every now and again, because all he had this ear to ear grin and just started laughing. I was like, oh, well, there goes my chance. Like, I'm never going to meet him again. So
that's awesome. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
It still happens. See, people can get
Yep.
awestruck completely. I want to get into trading the pick and making the pick and kind of those types of things. But first, obviously, our friends over at Prizepicks. Do you know ball? Because there's only one series left in the playoffs, and the championship is officially on the line. That means time is running out for you to put your final takes to the test on Prizepicks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. This year's basketball playoffs are headed towards crowning a first-time champ in more than 50 years. Don't miss your last chance to cash in on history with Prizepicks. Pick more or less on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and more for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Today, you can do the same thing over in hockey. Hell of a final championship run for the Panthers and the Oilers. You can do goals, you can do points, time on ice, which has been a big winner for me, saves, which has also been a big winner for me, and there's also face-off wins, and you can go do that over there as well. Prizepicks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Also on Tuesdays, there's Taco Tuesday. You get a little discount on, or not a discount, but you get less props. Like I got Sergei Bobrovsky instead of 24.5 saves, 20.5 saves, and he easily did that, and I was a winner because of it. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, run your game. So the draft, Carl, it's coming up soon. Bruins have the 7th pick in the first round. Obviously, that's the big focus. They have 2 seconds as well. It's interesting enough because Jason Robertson has that name has sort of been popped up in trade rumors, and I was like, man, would I trade this year's 7th for Jason Robertson, 6'3" winger out of Dallas, a guy who's consistently produced. He's young. I believe he's affordable. He's at around like $7 million on his contract. He is due one after, I believe, next season. Would you trade the 7th pick for Jason Robertson?
Is it just the 7th pick?
I would think that should get it done. Like, let's just in our world, let's say it's the 7th pick for Jason Robertson.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sit and wait around. Like, 2 things, right? Like, yes, I mean, you're talking about a 25-year-old perennial 80-point player that has had 40 plus years of goals. I mean, those players don't come around all that often. The one thing that I can't account for is, right, like I think he's making 7.7 this year. What is it? What are they going to be asking for after next year, right? Like, so I don't know the Bruins salary cap, but yeah, certainly as a player, someone to put alongside Pastrnak, that, right, like a lot of his points come from the power play, and especially early on in the year last year for the Bruins, like teams were able to key on Pastrnak on that far left side for the one-timer, right? Like if you have another scoring threat on that power play, that makes you more dynamic. So certainly, right, like you'll see a lot of, I think you would see a lot of teams do that. I think, what would you consider a successful career for the 7th overall pick? Right, like you see, right, and like this is what teams try to do in order to make these trades, right? Like the likelihood of success for that 7th overall pick versus a 25-year-old guy that is, I think he's more than a point a game in his career. I think he's got like 394 points in 320 games or something like that. Like that's hard to come around, and to be able to pair him with David Pastrnak, I think it would. I think it would cost you more. I don't I don't know. I don't know what the Dallas Stars are looking for. Probably players that like more control, like that 7th overall pick. And is it a potential prospect? I don't know that you have the prospect to make that happen. But if it's just the 7th overall pick, and even if it's the 7th overall pick and the Bruins' top prospect, yeah, I'm still probably doing that. And can I put context on top of that too?
You're more than welcome to.
Yeah, the context here being you're not in you're in an original six city where fans have expectations. Jason Robertson moves you more to a playoff team, and then as you start to surround Robertson and Pastrnak and McAvoy and Lindholm and Swayman, like that's a good core. Now you're getting close into that contending area. So that's why I would do it here in Boston. Now, if I'm in a, if I'm in a more patient, fan base, right? Like I'm obviously coming from this world, this prep world. I'm big on development, with development, and as you have people for 4 years comes culture too, right? Like you can instill that culture all the way up, provided, right, like at the pro level that you have the right player development group that's working with those players. Like I think, yeah, I think the context of being in an original six in a big city where expectations are to at least be moving towards a path of being a contending team. Like I would 7th overall pick for Jason Robertson. So I mean, essentially we're talking Jake O'Brien, Brady Martin, like Roger McQueen for what is an established scoring star in the league. Yes, I would do that. That was a long-winded answer.
No,
Yes.
but you landed the plane and you got to the interesting point. And my thing with it is because I've been thinking about this week, and I was asking Ty Anderson and Connor Ryan if they would do it, and it elicited a pretty good discussion. And neither said like, oh, "You an idiot! It would take more than the 7th." So I'm gonna say like 7th for Jason Robertson, who has 1 year left on a pretty affordable deal. Like you'd probably have to add in like a prospect or maybe a future like 3rd round pick or something. But like the 7th overall pick is a valuable pick
Oh yeah,
in the top
absolutely.
10, especially for a team like the Stars who are cap constrained, where it's like, hey, here's a chance that, they just got ranted in. They have a good core there. Like Robertson obviously is fantastic. From the Bruins perspective, like you're 100% right. Robertson's established. I mean, I can go through, points wise, 80 points this past year, 80 points the year before, 109 the year before that, 79 when he was 22, 41 goals as a 22-year-old, 46 as a 23-year-old, 35 last year. Like this is you are in desperate need of help on the left side at left wing. I mean, Geeky's been playing left wing. Hits a right shot, basically a right shot center playing left wing. Zaka's been over there at left wing too, but he's a center. So you're getting a true number 1 left wing in Robertson, and you're getting an established player who's 25, who can grow with Pastrnak, McAvoy, those guys. However, you still don't have a franchise center. And I'm not guaranteeing that 7th overall pick is going to be a franchise center, because I think this draft is, at least according to experts, sort of short on, number 1 bona fide franchise centers. Guys, you can like, okay, that's, Macklin Celebrini is going to be number 1 center. Connor McDavid, number 1 center. Connor Bedard, number 1 center. But at 7, you should get a center who projects as a top 6 regular, as a guy who can potentially get you over, like averaging over 60 points a season. And that's valuable, and that's hard to get. And so that's where I kind of teeter, where I'm like, do you trade the 7th overall pick? And Robertson, it seems to be he's on the trade block. Mason Marchment's another guy with the Stars on the trade block. But do you trade that 7th overall pick for a wing, an established wing? And I want to say yes, but I keep going back to like, I kind of want to see a guy like a Jake O'Brien, see what he can be as a potential number 1 center someday. And you can draft that later, and they have 1st round picks in future years, right? Like you have 2 firsts next year. I think you're going to have 2 firsts as well in 2027. That's fantastic. But you stunk all year, and you get the 7th pick to take a big swing with a higher percentage chance of getting a franchise center. Some people might call me crazy. I think I err on the side of making that 7th pick in that situation.
And so now I'm going to come back to the question that I asked you at the beginning, like for that 7th overall pick. So just Jake O'Brien is the name that you use. What does success look like for you? Like, so you just said 60 points over the course of a career, right? Like
60 total points.
Yeah, 60. Sorry, 60 points a year.
Yes,
for an established period of time. So you're looking at right. I think this is a name we used the other day, like a David Krejci type player, right? So you get 10, 12 years. What's that? That's 600 to 720 points. Now, can I go a little nerdy on you?
Please do.
The 7th overall pick to get to 750 points. The likelihood of that happening is just under 10%. It's like 9.8%.
Did you go through all the 7th overall picks to figure that out? Or is that just
this was like, I knew that this was a possibility of a conversation. So you go through it. It's a hockeywriters.com, and they will give you out all the percentages of like games played for each first round pick. And then it gives you potential points. So right here in front of me, out of the 61 7th overall picks, only six in history have ever had more than 750 points. Only one is at 1,000. Right.
Do you remember who the one was?
Oh no, I have. Don't ask me to go that deep.
Okay. So what?
So now this is my point. So I know that I have someone that is on that trajectory, right? Like as a winger.
No doubt.
And
almost 400 points, basically.
And so are you more attractive than in trade scenarios? Are you more attractive in free agency? Because now, right, like as an established player across the league, am I going to want to give up my no trade clause or sign in free agency with the Bruins because I'm waiting on Jake O'Brien, who I think we would say probably isn't going to be in the league for, like, certainly not going to be in the league next year, right?
No, I would put him at like 2, maybe even 3 years out.
Right. And the 3-year portion of it is traditionally the Bruins are outside of a Patrice Bergeron, like they're pretty conservative with their prospects, right? Like, so yeah, I'm taking Jason Robertson. I'm going to be active in free agency. I'm going to see if and this is me again, the context being that it's the Boston Bruins, and I think you can do a little bit of both, but I think if Dallas was saying 7th overall for Jason Robertson, I think I would do it.
No, it makes sense. And to go back to your question of like what would make a 7th overall pick successful for what they need, to me, it's a guy who is a playmaker, is making his wings better, is can help drive a line at times, can help ignite the power play. And O'Brien, to me, fits, at least projection wise, and for what he's been in junior, fits all those things. Doesn't mean he's going to be those things. And that's the tough part. And this is the thing I have trouble with, is you're 100% right. It's like, do you want $900,000 or do you want a chance at $1 million? That's a tough sell, I think. And so, in terms of success, like all the things I just said, and if you want like point totals, to me, it's averaging about 60 points a season. So that starts at around, 40, 50. And then hopefully in their prime, they're around 70, sometimes getting into 80. And being your top line center or centering your second line. And because to me, you just don't have a lot of that. But you also don't have a lot of guys on the wing. Now, the thing we've talked about on the show as well is, like, as I said earlier, you have more firsts. You have 2 seconds this year. So it's entirely possible that you get, that you draft wingers later on. You could also draft centers later on in the draft who end up hitting. Bergeron was a 2nd round pick. Krejci was a 2nd round pick, kind of keeping to keep it local.
Jason Robertson was a 2nd round pick.
He was a 2nd round pick. He was a 39th overall pick by the Stars. So, like, I think it's a good debate because, and the other thing that you mentioned, like, Robertson would fit the core here, the age of the core. But then that completely changes your direction because you're not retooling really anymore. If your top 6 has Robertson and Pasternak, and your top D pairing is, let's just say, Hampus Lindholm and Charlie McAvoy, and your goalie's Jeremy Swayman, like, you're retooling, but you're competitive. Like, you're a much more competitive team. And then do you start to then trade your other picks for guys? And the other thing is, if you get Jason Robertson, you better be damn well sure that you are going to be the team. You're going to sign him to an extension. Like, that has to happen. And he might end up making more, or at least close to David Pasternak at 11.5. I would think.
Yeah, and I think that's got to be part, like, you know, if you're going to enter into those conversations with trading that 7th pick, you're gonna get in on those extension talks, I would imagine, right away, right? Like, that is a conversation that needs to be had. Like, you want him around for more than just the year, because you're not truly a contender next year.
No.
So like at 25, right? Like, nowadays, that is, what is that? Someone coming out of their senior year at Boston College, right?
Senior year at Western. That's their junior year at Western Michigan.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Like, so, I mean, he is a young, talented player that is part of anyone's core across the league. But yeah, you're gonna want to have him, and I think his agent's Pat Brisson, so he's gonna do well in any contract
he's gonna make
extension.
Some money.
Yeah, he's gonna do pretty well.
He's gonna make money. Yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I doubt Robertson gets traded. I don't know how you do that. I know that they have other pieces, but to me, I'd sacrifice depth for Robertson, and that's where Mason Marchment comes in. Mason Marchment's name has been floated out as a potential trade guy as well. He's 29. He makes $4.5 million. He's got one more year left before being an unrestricted free agent before the 26-27 season. Just to give you an idea, his stats: he had 22 goals and 47 points last year, 22 and 53 in 81 games the year before. It's kind of hovered around that the last couple of years. He's 6'5", 212 pounds, left wing. I would do that. Like, I think.
For what?
Well, that's a good question.
We're not talking
no,
7th overall pick.
No, God, no.
Okay.
God, no.
You talking one of, like, second rounders, and then.
Well, Dallas. So this is the thing, right? Like, Dallas cap wise doesn't have much.
Right.
They don't have much in terms of cap space, and they're probably going to have to shed. Like, I don't know how you bring back Jamie Benn. They have Mikhail Granlund, who I initially, that was the rumor that they wanted to re-sign him, and that was kind of like why Robertson might end up getting the axe. Marchment likely is probably going to make a lot of money as a UFA next season because he's 6'5". He's a good, like, middle six guy. In terms of a trade for him, like, I mean, because, you know, like, you're probably looking at, as you said, like, is it a second? Can you capitalize on the fact that Dallas needs to move him or might need to if they want to re-sign other players, and you're sort of kind of holding them over the barrel and you get him at a lower price? I just think he's too coveted that I don't think you're getting him, like, on the cheap. So again, I would assume he's probably like a second round pick. Is that too much for a guy with 1 year left?
And so, like the player, I think if this was someone that was on that 22, 23, 23, 24, it's someone that you're willing to give up assets for. I think in the current situation with where your roster is, like, he's a really good player on a contending team because he can play multiple ways, right? Like, Florida Panthers are winning because they can play any style that you want to play. You want to play run and gun? I can do that. You want to play physical? We can certainly do that. Like, I think Mason Marchment, like, in that second, third line, like, he can play a myriad of different ways. I just don't think he gets you over the top next year, right? Like, talking about trading him, and he's, 1 year out from an extension. He doesn't make you a playoff contending team next year. And is he necessarily a great fit with Pastrnak? Probably not. I don't know.
No.
Right? Like, I think what you're looking at is someone that, yeah, if he's on your second line, you're could be a playoff team. You're on your third line, like you're really good. And I just don't think you're there right. I don't think you're there yet to make the trade for Mason Marchment. And then at the age of 30, try to extend him where Jason Robertson is a established star that is really young. I think that's the only difference between the player. Like I think Mason Marchment is like, who's close? Like who's like I don't know, like a team that's really just second round conference finals consistently, that just needs to get over that top with a little bit of forward depth. Like he's a really good player for one of those teams. And
Absolutely.
you're not there yet. You're not.
No, you're not. But I do think you do need some talent, and he can give you that, and it's less pricey, and he comes at a pretty good discount of 4.5. The question is, do you extend him? I mean, if they're going to play the way Sturm seems to want them to play, he probably fits that structured, physical, hard checking kind of build. And I look at Marchment as sort of like, maybe this is a bad way to look at it, but like a stopgap, sort of a bridge to that next core that's going to supplement Pastrnak and those guys. And I think he fits somewhere in there. It just comes down to what's the other part of it is like, what's his price going to be next offseason? Like, let's just say you traded a second for him. Let's just say it's a second for Mason Marchment. That second's a valuable asset. And if Mason Marchment leaves in the offseason, well, that's a waste because Mason, as you said, Mason Marchment's not making you a cup contender. Now, if you trade a second for Marchment and he immediately extends here for, what is it, 6.5 million per for 6-7 years, like maybe that's better. Like maybe that is a good value get for you.
6 years at 30 for like a larger player. Like you're right. Like is he going to get that amount of money? I don't know. Like on the term that's something that he's going to get. But yeah, the 6.5 sounds about right. Right. Like I just worry about like the game and is geared towards speed.
Yeah.
Right? Like certainly Florida has, right, like has done it with physicality, but speed as well. I just worry, what does that look like at the end of the contract, where historically larger players like break down a little bit.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. I just think where you're at right now, I would take my picks and try to develop them into future Boston Bruins, as opposed to do a stopgap towards a player that you may lose and doesn't make you a definitive playoff contender next year, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, and this hits my next question for you, and this is something else I wanted to get into, is like with the pick. One thing, the Athletic did a mock draft earlier this week, and Fluto Shinzawa spiced it up a little bit and had the Bruins trading Pavel Zacha and Marat Hustendinov to Vancouver for the 15th overall pick and Niles Hoglander, which like I would have no issue doing. Would you want them to potentially trade guys off the current roster to get into this first round, to get another pick in this first round? Let's even say it's not that trade. Like, would you support them trading, obviously not a Pastrnak or a McAvoy, but a roster player to get back into this first round?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I feel like I need to say is your core is still really good. Like if you look at, and by that I mean Jeremy Swayman is a really good goaltender.
Yep.
Like if not one of the best in the league, top echelon. McAvoy, Lindholm, like Pastrnak, like you don't want to waste the prime of those players'
bingo
career to try to trade back into the first round. Let's just use that as a scenario at 15 to get a player that not going to be around for 3 years. And so, as a fan base, like, right, like if you start trading players off of your current roster to get into the draft, no, But Hoglander is like a 30-point player in the National Hockey League.
I'll look it up.
Right,
I
like
think he had 22 goals a year ago.
Somewhere around there, like a nice player. But I wouldn't want to see them do that just to get back into this draft. Like, I'm not my acumen for what the prospect pool. Like, I've looked at all the mock drafts and certainly have
Hard not to. It's so fun. That's like the one.
Yeah,
you look
no,
forward
it's a
to
ton
this
of
time year.
fun, and I have some understanding of like who the U.S. born players are that are floating around that area. But yeah, I would take my 7 if I didn't get Jason Robertson. I would develop that player that hopefully maybe 2 years from now they're playing for the Boston Bruins, and stick with my current roster. I don't think that this is the draft that they want to be trading players. But if they do that, you right, like you've talked about a couple times here, rebuild or retool. And if they trade to get back in and they're trading current players off their roster, I mean, I think that sends a signal to fans, to players, like what they're actually trying to do.
Yeah, and it's tough trading Zacha because he is valuable. He makes $4.5 million and
Yep.
plays in every role. He plays every position. Like, that's a guy you want. He works with Pasternak. My thing is more so, I see if they traded back, if they traded for another first this year, to me that signals with 4 first-round picks in the next 2 drafts that they're going to trade those picks for players. Like, in a perfect world,
Yeah.
you would trade into this first round to get another first. You get a guy in the teens, if it's Jackson Smith, a defenseman, or Carter Bear, like a wing, someone like that. That's a high-end prospect. It's not a top 10 prospect. That's likely a really good prospect. And you come out of this draft with 2 first-round picks. In a perfect world, for Jason Robertson, you would trade a 2026 first or a 2027, because the idea obviously is, okay, let's say you get the 2 first this year. They don't come into the league for 2 to 3 years. And yeah, that's a long time, but your first next year aren't coming into the league for 2 to 3 years after that, for 4 years down the road. 2027, it's 5 years down the road. And that doesn't really fit with Pasternak and McAvoy and Swayman's primes. Whereas if you do get 2 this year, yeah, it is kind of long. It's 2, maybe 3 years, but you're getting them in their late 20s, early 30s. You're getting them still in their prime. I'm talking about your current core.
Yeah.
And if you want to trade those, a future first or 2 for established NHL players, like, that option's on the table too. Like, if you're asking me, would you trade like the 2026, like your 2026 first for Jason Robertson? I'd say, yeah, absolutely. I would do that. Of course. Like, I want to make the 7th pick this year. That's my biggest thing. I want to see what that comes out to be. I want to see what sort of your quote unquote, and this is a bad way to put it, but prize was for this past season. But your future firsts, like, I'm okay with dealing one of those for Jason Robertson. Absolutely.
Yeah, but then I think, and so now if we're talking solely Jason Robertson, I think the idea with Dallas is they have some control cost at this number 7 overall pick, but that player too, like the same reason you're saying, hey, next year's first round pick, 2026 pick isn't going to be with the Boston Bruins for 2, 3, 4 years, right? Like, that's the same thing that Dallas, like Dallas is in a window, right? Like, they've been to conference finals here for an extended period of time. Like, they need to get over that hump a little bit, and this 7th overall pick, like you say, like, can make an impact maybe a year from now, right? Like, not this current year, but that, you know, that second year. And I think that's why that 7th overall pick would be attractive to a Jason Robertson trade. Like, whether they're looking for something additional, like a prospect or something, I don't know, but I don't think you'd be able to get a future 2026 pick for Jason Robertson.
Yeah, or a player even comparable. My thing, again, I go back to Robertson. It's tough because he's a wing, and that's what I go back to. And like, the reason I like them signing Mitch Marner is because you don't give up anything for it. It's salary cap space, and that's important.
Yep.
But the cap's going up, and contracts do get cheaper over time, and this and that, and like, you're not giving up assets. And so with Robertson, it's tough because you're giving up. Let's, in the hypothetical we gave, you're giving up the 7th overall pick, which is a very valuable pick. Likely to be a very good player. It's tough. And I don't know. I don't think he probably ever gets traded. Like, I
probably
can't see
not.
a world in which Dallas just like lets him go. But Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
in
mean,
terms of
so we spent 45 minutes talking about a trade that won't work. That tells
welcome
us
to
he's probably going to
June.
do it.
Welcome to
Yeah.
June. But it could. And I tweeted out, I said, the universe needs like the reverse Tyler Seguin trade. Like somehow the Bruins trade like Casey Middlestat and like Andrew Peak for Tyler Seguin or not, excuse me, for Jason Robertson, just to reverse the Tyler Seguin trade. I think it's only fair that that's how that goes.
That was a July 4th trade, right? Wasn't
That
it?
was July 4th, 2013. That was a hell of a day. Before we go, is there someone you really like at 7? Is there someone that you're like, that's who I hope the Bruins pick? That's realistic, obviously.
Yeah, Richard Gallant.
That's right. I like that.
Yeah.
Yes. Richard Gallant, the 7th overall pick. I can get behind that.
Yeah. No, obviously I've done a little bit of research. I think
You hit me with that 7th overall stat. Now I'm sitting here like, damn, I was not ready for that right hook.
I think they're comparable between Jake O'Brien and David Krejci, right? Like a pass first can fit in on that second line. I think that's someone that I would be comfortable with. But and I've said this to you, I don't know, for a couple of weeks now at least. I really think that Brady Martin's going to be on the table. I think the style of play the style of game that he plays, right, like is something that the Bruins organization traditionally has liked. And if he's a comparable to, I know I saw him at the combine talk about being Tom Wilson, Matthew Nyes, kind of. I don't think he's that size of a player.
No, he's just 6 feet. Yeah.
Maybe more of like a Travis Konechny, but right, like if you could go back, and I think Konechny was 24th overall, but if you knew that Travis Konechny was going to be Travis Konechny, would you take him at 7? I don't know enough about the players. I just would, as a Bruins fan, I would keep an eye on Brady Martin.
There are some people I've talked to who think Brady Martin won't even be available at 7. Like I know Connor Ryan thinks like Brady Martin could be
Nashville,
picked earlier. Like, yeah, or Utah. Like Utah's an interesting spot because they weren't supposed to have that 4th pick. They've made high picks in the past who are centers. They have guys like Logan Cooley and Clayton Keller on the roster. Did they go for sort of the highest floor, which Martin seems like he has the highest floor of all those guys. I love Brady Martin. I think I've said this to you, over text. Like, I love him. Every time I read about him, every time I listen to him, I'm like, I love this kid. This is a guy I want on my team. I just think you need skill more. You need a playmaker. You need someone who has that high-end offensive ceiling. And O'Brien provides that. From everything I've seen and watched and read, he provides that. And I completely get that Brady Martin is more probably of a typical Bruin, but O'Brien fits more of what you actually need. And if they do build through the wing, if they do this offseason, go out and sign like a Brock Besser, let's just say, or Nikolai Ehlers, and you have David Pasternak, like you need a good playmaking center. And O'Brien seems to fit that bill. And McQueen's a tough one too, because McQueen, 6'5", intriguing player, but back injury this year. I don't know if you want to dive into that yet. I don't know if you're in a spot where you can take that big of a swing. But O'Brien to me is the guy so far. But I know, again, a lot of people love Brady Martin too.
And where are you at if like someone like Porter Martone falls to you, like who at times was second overall prospect, had some talk, right? Like in and around. I remember when they played the national program and that, what was it, the CHL's prospects game kind of thing,
Yes.
Or series, right? Like he was getting some love for a number 1 overall pick, but he's a winger.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Evan?
You're right. If Martone falls to you, I mean, it depends how the chips fall. And it's like, if Brady Martin goes in that top 6, that shifts everything. Because I think, as much as we talk about him in the top 6, I don't know, we don't consider him as like a top 6 pick yet. Like I look at obviously Schaefer and Misa, should be gone immediately. Then you have guys like Hagens, Desnoyers, Frindell. Where do they go? Martone, I put in that as well. If Martin goes in there, he shifts everything down.
Yeah.
So like, if Martone does fall to you, you have this big, powerful playmaking right winger who seems to be a little bit of a unicorn. It's a hard guy not to pick.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, it's a hard guy just to pass over and say, well, we're going to, we wanted a center. Like at 7, you're still drafting best available, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what you got to do. With character is the most important thing, right? Like character, best available player with character in mind, right? Like, and I think you put yourself in a pretty good position to be successful if you're looking at their character and you're taking the best available player. I think in the long run, you're going to be pretty good.
Well, we hit on everything today. We spent a lot of time on trades and picks.
Yeah. I hope Jason Robertson comes here now.
That's right. For all the time we spent, you know what? I'm on board. Make that trade, baby. 7th overall for Jason Robertson.
Let me call Jim Neal right now.
That's right. All for us spending time on it. Well, Carl, it's always fun. We'll have you on throughout the offseason at different times. I always see the comments on these. They're like, where's Carl? We love Carl. I'm glad he's here. So I'm glad you're here too. The first day of summer too, which is it's an honor. But that's that. That's Bruins Beat.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Love talking hockey.
And remember to go eat at La Cantina. That's the big thing.
That's true.
Go eat at La Cantina.
Framingham, Massachusetts, 135. Go
support a local business if you don't live near La Cantina either. But that's Bruins Beat. I'm Evan Marinofsky, Bruins Beat listeners. Have a great rest of your week.